You're welcome to the Policy Council. My name is Okwemi Agbaje. This week we talk about the vexed issue of the Sovereign National Conference, or a national conference, or a national dialogue. I have one of the advocates, strong and consistent advocates of that idea on the program today to explain why he thinks Nigeria needs a national conference. Enjoy the program. You're welcome to the Policy Council once again, and my guest is Olawale Okuniyi, spokesperson of the PRONACO, Pro-National Conference Organization, National Secretary of the National Summit Group, and Coordinating Secretary of Project Nigeria National Consensus Group. Olawale, you're welcome to the Policy Council.
Well, it is my pleasure to be here.
Okay, so
thanks for bringing me.
Thank you very much. Let's talk about PRONACO, National Summit Group, and this new one, Project Nigeria National Consensus Group. What do they stand for?
Thanks very much. Pro-National Conference Organization was essentially an engagement of the leaders of the people's movement, coordinated sometime in 2004 when we had problems about the national question in the country. General Obasanjo was president then, and so leaders got together and said, well, the people's movement, that is the leaders of the people, needed to intervene in the national question at that time. And so Chief Enahoro consulted leaders like Professor Wole Soyinka, Dr. Beko Ransome-Kuti, etc., and then there was an agreement that we needed to pull together a people's conference, since it was clear to us that the Obasanjo regime was not going to allow the Nigerian people to have a sovereign national conference, a people's national conference that will be sovereign in its decision. And so the essential objective of that effort was to get on board a draft people's constitution for the nation and to create a model of how the people can be consulted and engaged in terms of a national conference.
That was PRONACO.
PRONACO.
And that resulted in a draft
yes,
people's
it resulted first and foremost in a 20-month People's National Conference,
okay, after
the previous consultation. And then at the end of the national conference, People's National Conference, as tagged by PRONACO, we came out with 29-point resolution, which formed the raw material for the draft People's Constitution that came out, that was put together under the leadership of Professor Jade Sola Akande and co, who were lawyers and so on and so forth, in the draft Constitutional Committee. And we had what we call the draft People's Constitution. That was the end product of that conference.
What has happened to that draft now?
Well, you know, Nigerian government and Nigerian ruling class very much given to their own fears, which I know is that they are afraid something might happen in terms of power, control, etc. So they've done. We have been using that draft as a mobilization tool.
I've looked at the document.
Engaging the ethnic nationalities, about 200 of them that participated in that conference. And then, furthermore, the social forces in the country, we have been engaging them with that draft constitution and the provision of that constitution, and even the processes of that constitution. So the objective of PRONACO is to get on board a model in terms of process and in terms of content of what the people want.
Give us a peep. I've seen it, but for the benefit of our viewers, give us a peep into some of the key philosophies and highlights of that draft constitution.
Well, one of the fundamental highlights of that constitution is that, well, it speaks to the fact that the present Nigerian state must be restructured. You need to restructure that back to what you call 18 regions instead of the artificial job for the boys 36 states created by the military. So, I mean, the conference agreed. Ethnic nationalities, about 200 of them, met for 20 months and agreed that, look, we need to restructure this place along the line of 18 regional states that will be economically viable and can stand on their own. And then there should be devolution of powers, and that there should be what you call the fiscal federalism in terms of the federating unit now, which is the regional state, taking 50% of its revenue and then contribute 15, and then 35 for what you call stabilization fund and so forth and so on. That's that resolution at that level. Then parliamentary system of government was adopted, and that you also have a situation whereby the regional state will have constitution of their homes, etc., etc. So essentially, it's a restructuring model. It's a restructuring model for Nigeria, and which speaks to the yearnings and aspirations of the Nigerian people, what they want.
Okay, let's take this time out. I'm with Wale Okuni, Secretary or spokesperson of Pronaco, and we'll continue this conversation around the restructuring of Nigeria. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. Still on the Policy Council, and Wale Okuni, spokesperson Pronaco, is still with me. Okay, so I understand, Wale, I understand Pronaco. What of National Summit Group?
Well, essentially, the National Summit Group came together to foster consensus. We discovered that the Pronaco process did not really achieve the degree of consensus in terms of participation, in terms of elements from regions participating. For instance, there was not a too qualitative representation from the northern region and some other. So we decided that, okay, this time around, that's from last year, 2011, we need to put together, we need to demonstrate consensus around the issue of national conference.
Okay.
That there is a need for us to actually test the consensus.
Do you believe it is possible to secure such consensus across the whole of Nigeria?
We did.
In favor of a national conference?
We did. The conference the National Summit in February 2012 actually showed and demonstrated to the nation that there is a consensus on the question of national conference. Although some people said, remove sovereign, remove whatever. Of course, that is in no course, really. But people don't know that to the extent that the conference decision will be supreme is to the extent that you have sovereign put to the national conference. But we agreed and said, okay.
Who for instance, were those who participated in this from northern Nigeria?
Oh, for instance, you have Alhaji Maitama Sule, you have Alhaji Barabe Musa, and so on and so forth. Alhaji Kura, all of them came this time around to Sheraton. So we were able to establish to the nation that there is a consensus that for the nation to attain stability and political cohesion, you must first go to a national conference, a dialogue of the Nigerian people where we go and agree to how we want to run Nigeria.
Are you saying there's no agreement now?
There is an agreement now. Beginning from that, I mean, we have been able to demonstrate what we did as well was scientific, to be able to establish the fact that everybody wanted it. And that is on board now. The government can see it, can see what happened that everybody spoke, from Edwin Clark to Barabe Musa to Lufalaye to Maitama Sule to Alabogram Douglas, etc., Patutomi. We all agreed to, well, we must have a conference of the people in their various constituents now, not just constituents, that I mean federating, natural, original federating units, ethnic nationality, and the social movement, the labor, professional groups, NBA, etc., put together to say, one, do we agree to stay together? You must first determine whether we want to stay together.
There are people who are afraid of that question being asked at all.
They are not doing the nation any good. Because if you don't ask that, you won't know whether. Why? If people say no, we don't want to. If your wife doesn't want to live with you and you want to evade that, you will just run a very risky, a very dangerous marriage. And that is what is happening in Nigeria. So therefore, it must be tested. It must be answered. That do we want to stay together? And I know that 90%, if not 100%, will answer in the affirmative. Yes. That yes, we want to stay together. Those that are even perceived as wanting to break the country also want a big Nigeria. We in our own caucus have decided that we want a big Nigeria. We that people see as, oh, too radical. We want a big Nigeria, but restructured along the line of justice so that we can have political cohesion. You have no basis for Boko Haram if this issue had been done before now. Because maybe they are in the majority seeking wider application of Sharia laws in their region. It would have been tested. You would have known that, oh, the northern region wants this, but now you cannot lay your hands on this. You cannot prove it, whether it is right or wrong. Because what they are doing is not essential. It's just that we condemn the mindless killing and tactless utterances, you know, that goes with what they are doing. It's self-determination. They are seeking and political autonomy. They say we want wider application of Sharia law in the north. That's what they are saying. So therefore,
and it's a legitimate aspiration.
Oh yes,
if that's what they want.
The UN has established that indigenous people have the right to self-determination, and any of the indigenous people anywhere in the world that is so able to organize their people very well, conduct plebiscite or referendum, can approach them and they will get it. Notwithstanding the territory where they live.
Okay.
So therefore, what we have done is to try to establish that, look, the Nigerian people wants to talk. They want to talk. They want to determine. They want to hone their corporate existence.
Wale, hold your thoughts. We'll be right back, and I'll ask you the more difficult questions about this national conference. We'll be right back.
Who knows Abi better thing? Abi who no like better thing? All these fine things where they see so. Now money government they take do now. Abi, I think it's like, you know, I mean, excuse me, I dey pay my tax. I dey do a thing, I dey pay my tax. Say you don't pay your own tax. If you pay your tax, I pay. Oh.
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
We are back on the Policy Council. Wale Okuni, Secretary of PRONACO, was firing on the need for a national conference. But let me ask you, who will select the people to take part in this conference? How will they be chosen?
At the level of the Project Nigeria, the leaders of the people with credibility who understand these issues can convoke a sovereign national conference. But then we have said no, not for now. And so therefore, we have said that government should be allowed to facilitate the process. You know, that is the first option for us. The National Assembly is there, is a product of an illegitimate law, decree. The decree is not a constitution. Decree 24 of 1999, you are a lawyer, which you operate. It's a decree, it's a law, and it's an unpopular law, and not a constitution.
Made by a few soldiers.
So it's a law. It's not a constitution. There is a difference between a constitution and a law. Because a law, a decree, will never emanate from the people. It's just from some people who have taken conquest of an area and they are, you know, and they have power by force. But a constitution naturally will emanate
from the will of the people.
From the people. The constituent, the reconstituent.
Yeah, but the practical question, Wale, is if we remove, that's what holds this society called Nigeria today. That decree, that military constitution. If we remove it, won't Nigeria scatter?
But we can do it. We can gradually. That's what we are saying. Let us facilitate a process that can replace that. What PRONACO have said is, let us replace it. And we can evolve a process that will gradually replace that. Until that process comes to an end, you leave it there.
Okay, so what will happen to the National Assembly while you are doing
I'm
all
going
of
to talk
this?
all about, but you have raised the point about convoking it. Well, PRONACO in its research identified 200 ethnic nationalities group, not tribal group or language group now. People have said 450, 460, but our latest research discovered that we have just 200. We did a rigorous work on this, and we came to 200. A group now came, it was 199 initially. A group came from the Republic of Benin and said that they are part of Nigeria, Ewe group. And so we discussed and debated and said, okay, they could be, since they want to be in Nigeria.
If a group comes from Nigeria,
they want to be in Nigeria. If they want to be in Nigeria, we will. If they are an ethnic nationality, we accept them.
Even if geographically today they are in Nigeria.
Well, if they choose, a people determine where they want to be. And that's what we said about.
You could even start an international crisis.
No. No, what happened? What happened in Brown was to say, look, even the 18 regional state was as a result of consensus among people to say, okay, we have geographical contiguity. We are together. And so we can live together, pull our economic resources together, and then our people, we have similarities in terms of culture and language. Can we stay together? What we are saying in essence is this, that the National Assembly can sensibly, under Section 4 of their own decree, make law for good governance, because you won't have, there is no good governance even now, and that there is instability now. There is problem in the north. We are in a state of war. We have not decided. We have not only admitted there is a war going on. They can come and say, we make a law to enable the Nigerian people to give unto themselves a people's constitution.
Okay,
they have the power to do that.
Let's take a break. We'll come back and you further expatiate on this process. We'll be right back.
Government wants our city to become a mega modern city. And so, government is providing modern markets for us to carry out our business. Now, this requires money. So, we need to pay our taxes to help government to help us. I pay my taxes. I hope you've paid yours. I pay. Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back to the final segment of the Policy Council with Wale Okuneye. Wale, let me deal with the fears of some of our compatriots. Already people are producing flags, anthems, symbols, and I think that many fear that all of this sovereign national conference will end up dissolving Nigeria. What are your fears about that?
Not really. Even the sovereign national conference is getting belated. At the level of PRONACO, our recent caucus meeting, we dismissed it and said that, look, you have the UN. And we started talking to all these people and said, look, you have your destiny in your hand. If you are competent or you Yoruba nation, you have 5 governors now, and you can't invoke self-determination, then it's a shame. The Ogoni people under Digbo, we encourage all to say, look, these people are not going to give you. But within Nigeria, nobody stops you from having self-determination and political authority. Within Nigeria, it is not secession. They are two different things. And so we said, under United Nations law, for the right of indigenous people to self-determine and political autonomy, you can do it. It's for you to organize. And we told Boko Haram the same thing.
You know that?
I issued a statement.
Okay, to a statement.
Yes.
You didn't meet with them?
We didn't meet with them.
Okay.
We didn't meet with them. And if we had wanted to meet with them, we would meet with them. It's not a difficult thing. Because this is the work we do. It's to create stability for Nigeria. So we issued a statement and said, look, you can organize, rather than kill poor and innocent people, you can actually organize your people along those lines, popularize your demand among them, and then you begin to approach the United Nations. Organize your people. Let us test the popularity of your demand. Nobody will give your right to you.
Wale,
So that is the point here. And it is not about balkanizing or dismembering Nigeria.
let me ask you another question. What if we, at this conference, we fail to agree? Or what some says, this
That's
is
an assumption anyway.
Okay.
But if that happens, we'll continue to discuss until we agree. That was Chief Enaoro for you. Enaoro said, well, this conference, it will be by consent. There is not going to be voting. But that at some point, patiently we understand each other, one another. Patiently we explain, and we can negotiate and say, okay, this is it. But we are not going to go to vote like that. And we don't want dismembering of Nigeria. We have perfected the plan and strategy and processes.
Let me ask you a final question, which I hear people say. Can't the current National Assembly amend this constitution to achieve the things we want?
It will never be. A decree is a law by the military. You amend it and amend it, it will never turn to a people's constitution because it did not derive from the consent of you in the first place. You can decree 24, amend it 200 times. It will come back to decree. As a matter of fact, you amend if you do fundamental amendment. There is no way you will not have amended section 9 of that constitution. If you decide to do constitution making, is not essentially about the paper constitution. It's about conflict management of the diverse constituents. We want to manage the conflict because this thing will burst, and we don't pray it bursts. So therefore, Nigerians must own their constitutional arrangement. They must be allowed to own it. If they do not own it spiritually in their consciousness, they will not be able to defend it in operation because it has not gone into their soul that it is part of. So constitution is a big special activity in the nation. It's at the fundament of everything. So for stability to be entrenched or enthroned in Nigeria, so that we will have less of Boko Haram bombing. Look, the moment you do this, I want to put it to you, and I want to be quoted and challenged. I want to be contacted. The Boko Haram insurgents will be isolated because there will not be basis. Okay, what would they now call the basis for throwing bombs?
Wale.
So, what we are saying is that Nigerians in their various constituencies and their various groups and whatever should be allowed to come together to come and hone their life. You give it to them. The federal government can facilitate it. But in the event that they do not facilitate, two things will happen. The people's leaders will try, they will be pushed to the wall to convoke a sovereign national conference. Then they will then know that they are unpopular. Or that the ongoing invocation of self-determination and political autonomy will gain precedence. That is the point.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wale Okuni, Secretary General of PRONACO, very passionate about the Sovereign National Conference, a national dialogue of Nigerian people.
Spokesperson of PRONACO.
Thank you very much. We'll be right back. We've had a passionate advocacy in support of the concept of a Sovereign National Conference from my guests today. There's no doubt, given the law and order breakdown, the crisis across the country, that indeed something is fundamentally wrong. And the need for a dialogue amongst Nigerians is probably unavoidable. Whether it will be a sovereign one, whether it will be a national dialogue, whatever the modalities that are eventually agreed, indeed, Nigeria needs a national dialogue. That has been the Policy Council this week. See you next.